Welcome to this new video from the first training activity in the frame of the ENNEADI project. This is Marco Malaguti from the University of Bologna at the Department for Life Quality Studies. Today we will talk about food-based dietary guidelines. What are dietary guidelines? Well, they are a series usually of recommendations intended to establish a basis for public nutrition, health and agricultural policies, and also nutritional education. They provide advice on foods, food groups, and dietary patterns to provide the required nutrients to the general public and to promote overall health and prevent chronic diseases. Dietary guidelines have been published for many years by most countries around the world. Europe, in North America, in South and Central America, and Asia. And more recently, also the European Union has started providing its own guidelines. And this is thanks to the work provided by the EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority, which has summarized its own recommendations into 8 different points. The first one is related to the importance of carbohydrates in our diet, especially underlying the importance of those so-called complex carbohydrates, those, for example, present in pasta and potatoes, bread, and so on. And the second one is referred again to carbohydrates, but those called simple carbohydrates, like sugars, that should be reduced in our diet. They are related to weight gain and then obesity, so they represent risk for developing overweight and obesity, and also tooth decay. The third one is referred to the importance of fibers. Fibers are those components present in our food, in the foods we eat, that are not digested. But they are extremely important for the correct functioning of our intestinal and digestive tract. So also the EFSA underlined that 25 grams of fibers should be present in our diet every day. That is not so easy to have. The fifth one is related to fats. So the importance of fats present in the diet is demonstrated here when saying that between 20 and 35% of the total energy we introduce in a day should come from fats. The sixth describe the type of fat we should prefer: saturated fatty acids, trans fat, those that now are called often hydrogenated. They are not so healthy. They've been put in relation to the development of high cholesterol level. They may represent a risk factor for developing cardiovascular diseases. So we have a specific recommendation about the type of fat we eat. And also the number 7 is again referred to a specific type of fat. It says that a daily intake of 250 milligrams of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids may reduce the risk for heart diseases. What long-chain omega-3 fatty acids are? They are special fatty acids mainly found in fish and also nuts, for example, and they provide a huge number of positive effects in our health, like reducing the risk for cardiovascular diseases, but also they have other positive effects. And the number 8 is referred to water intake. Drinking enough water is essential for our health. These recommendations represent a very condensed summary of how we should behave when we eat and when we choose what to eat. Of course, all countries in Europe have their own recommendations. And here I am trying to compare those published by the Ministry of Health of the 3 countries of the partner participating in the ENNEADI project. So we have recommendations from Spain, Italy, and Lithuania. It's interesting to see and how different countries drive similar concepts in a different way sometimes, but we will also find that we have a huge number of similarities among these recommendations. First of all, who is the target group of these recommendations? To whom are they referred to? So in Spain, the target group of dietary guidelines is represented by the general population, but they provide 2 different sets of guidelines. One is referred to children and adolescents, and the other one to the general public. Similar things happen in Italy and Lithuania, where the general guidelines is addressed to the general population. In Italy, we have a huge book that is represented by the guidelines, and where each chapter represent a specific topic. They are referred to the general public, but also a focus on a specific group of people, like those who practice sports, pregnancy, and children. They are mentioned. In Lithuania, they have general guidelines for the general public. This is an overview of what the guidelines are. So every number represents one of the chapters that is discussed in the guidelines. And I tried to underline or color with this in the same way different guidelines, different recommendations present in the different countries. So in purple, I colored those guidelines referring to general suggestion for a better eating behavior. In green, I colored those guidelines referring to how to maintain a proper body weight. In blue, those refer to water consumption. In red, those referring to the amount of fresh fruit and vegetable we eat. In yellow, those related to fibers. In dark blue, those refer to fish consumption. We have them only in Spain and Lithuania. In brown, those refer to fat consumption. And in gray, those related to salt present in our diet. But let's have a look of each color group. Well, if we try to compare those that I colored in green, we find that we have 3 of them in Spain and 1 in the other 2 countries. So in Spain, they say live, active, move, do sports, have fun, maintain a proper way. So these are 3 recommendations to maintain an active lifestyle, which is extremely important to reduce risk factors for chronic and degenerative diseases. In Italy, we have we summarize these concepts into just one recommendation: keep your weight under control and always be active. And a similar sentence we have in Lithuania: keep your weight under control and always be active. Physical activity is related to health. It has multiple health and social economical benefit. And as stated into the World Health Organization website and documents, physical activity contributes to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. So being active and avoiding any sedentary behavior should be a common base to reach a healthy lifestyle. The group of recommendation I colored in red, they are referred to the amount of fruits and vegetables we eat. So we have three very similar sentences in this case. In Spain, they say eat fruits and vegetables 5 a day, which is exactly the same message they drive in Lithuania. Eat vegetables, fruit, or berries 5 times a day. And in Italy, we have the second of our recommendation that says eat more fruits and vegetables. From one of the videos from Professor Crelia, you had a deep view of the importance of eating fruits and vegetables 5 times a day. Eating 5 portions of fruits and vegetables means eating about 400 grams of fruits and vegetables. And this amount is able to provide enough nutraceutical compounds to obtain their positive health effects. Moreover, eating such an amount of fruits and vegetables really contribute to providing enough fibers and also other nutrients like minerals, vitamins, and so on. So eating fruits and vegetables 5 times a day is really a good choice. A similar recommendation is represented by those I colored in yellow. They refer to the fiber consumption in our diet. So choose food with fiber, eat whole grain and legumes, and eat whole grains every day. Whole grains are an important source of fibers, as well as fruits and vegetables we mentioned before. Eating enough fibers has a positive effect on our intestinal digestive tract, but also it has a positive effect in reducing some risk factors like reducing the amount of cholesterol we absorb from the foods and so on. So this is a very important suggestion the guidelines gave us. The amount of fibers we should introduce in a day is about 25 grams, which is a very high amount. So to reach this recommendation, we really have to pay attention to the amount of legumes, whole grains, and fruits and vegetables we eat. Our 3 countries spend one of their recommendation describing the importance of water. We probably don't drink enough water in a day. This is true for many people around the world. In Spanish, they have the recommendation that says quench your thirst with water. It means try to avoid any other kind of drink and prefer water. In Italy and in Lithuania, we say drink abundant water every day or drink enough water. How much is enough water? Someone says 2 liters, someone else says 2.5 liters, someone says 3 liters. But where is the truth? Well, a good way to describe the amount of water we need is to describe it according to the amount of calories we consume in a day. So 1 milliliter every kilocalories of energy we consume is the correct amount. That is almost 2 or 2.5 liters for the general population. The recommendation I colored in brown, they refer to fats. And here we have different sentences among the 3 countries. In Spain we have just reduced fat, which is similar to what they say in Lithuania, control fat intake. In Italy we have something slightly different. Fats, select which ones and limit the quantity. So the common message is try to reduce them. But in Italy we have also the idea, we provide also the idea that some fats are better than others. So select which ones and limit the quantity. Select which ones. This is a key point. Usually, well, we know that all those I present here in the pictures, they are fat foods. Ham and processed meats, cheese and dairy products, some vegetables and some plant food. They come from they are rich in foods like olives here, and also fish provide some fat. Which among these 4 fatty foods are good ones and which are not? Well, of course, those of the highest quality are represented by fats in fish. The omega-3 fatty acids that are mentioned in the European recommendation, they are present mainly in this kind of foods, fish. But also fats from extra virgin olive oil is of extreme high quality. It is an unsaturated fatty acid. On the other side, we have those fats coming from animal sources like dairy products or meat and processed meat. In these cases we have mainly saturated fat, which are known to stimulate blood cholesterol level, and these are those fats that should be really limited in quantity. Both Italy and Lithuania have a specific recommendation about sweetened beverages. In Italy we have sugar, sweets and sugar sweetened beverages. Less is better. In Lithuania they have limit food and beverages that are high in sugar, which is a really important message. A bottle of sweetened beverages or the use exceeding in the use of sugar is related to weight gain, so overweight first, that can become obesity later, and also they are related somehow to the increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes. In Spain they have a different recommendation, a recommendation that is similar to the first one provided by the European guidelines. Carbohydrates are the basis. In this case, they are talking about complex carbohydrates. In fact, you see the picture of some pasta or bread. Complex carbohydrates, they are the base of our diet. It means they provide the highest amount of energy for our activities. But they are completely different from simple sugars. So carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates are good for our diet, and they represent about 50-55% of the total energy intake of a human being. But sugars, they should be limited as much as possible. Another recommendation, represented by the one that refer to salt, the use of salt. Salt is quite dangerous, let's say. In Spain they say leave the salt in the salt shaker. In Italy we have salt, less is better, but iodized. And in Lithuania they have eat unsalted foods, limit the amount of salt when cooking. Well, we have three different sentences, very similar in the message. So the problem with salt, sodium chloride, talking in chemical way, is that we are eating too much of it. Sodium chloride is present in any processed food, and it should be limited as much as possible due to the fact that it is related to hypertension, which is one risk factor for cardiovascular diseases. So we should, since it is not easy to limit the amount of salt we eat that is already present in the processed foods, we should really limit the amount of salt we add to the food we eat. An important recommendation provided by most guidelines around the world is related to the alcohol consumption, and we can see this one this one is present both in Italy and Lithuania. Alcoholic beverages the least possible and avoid alcohol. On the left I report the amount of mean alcohol per capita consumption expressed in liter of pure alcohol. The European mean is about 11.8 liters per year. In Spain, this amount is 12.7, in Italy 7.8, and in Lithuania 13.2. Alcohol consumption is extremely dangerous, of course, especially when alcohol comes from spirits instead of wine and beers. But in any case, alcohol has been demonstrated to be responsible for developing cancer at many levels, and also it is considered responsible for a huge number of deaths around the world. So reducing or avoiding the consumption of alcohol is another important recommendation. Only Lithuania have a specific recommendation about meat. We know probably that we should reduce as much as possible the consumption of red meat. It is always present at the top of the dietary pyramid. So it means that we should eat it in a very low amount during the week. But in Lithuania they have a specific recommendation on it. Choose lean meat and lean meat products, and limit amount of processed meat and red meat. And this is due to the fact that red, especially processed meat, when consumed in a very high amount, they become responsible for developing some type of cancers. Then we have a recommendation that is lacking in Italy. It is referred to the amount of fish we eat. Eat more fish. Eat fish 2 or 3 times a week. Fish is an extremely high quality food product. It contains and provides very high quality protein, and it also provides very, very high quality fat. So we should eat more fish, at least 2 or 3 times a week. Then in Lithuania they have a recommendation that is very similar to one they have also in the United States. Probably the only one that I do not really agree with. It says consume skim milk products. Of course it depends on the amount of milk and dairy product you are eating or drinking, but I'm not really sure that we need to consume it skimmed. Of course, yes, if the amount is high, but if we're not drinking a lot of it, even partially skimmed milk or even sometimes whole milk, they are fine for our diet. This is due to the fact that in the fat part of the milk we found also some vitamins, like vitamin A, which is not present in many other foods. However, this is one of the recommendation. Then we have a long list of recommendations related to positive and healthy behavior we should adopt. So in Spain they have eat healthy, it's easy, and wake up, have breakfast. Breakfast is a very important meal during the day, because we are coming from a long night of starving, so eating something in the morning is very, very important. It has been demonstrated, for example, that people who skip breakfast are more easily prone to develop overweight and obesity. In Italy we have 5 of these behavior recommendations. Enjoy a variety of food. Follow special recommendation for target groups. Be careful of dieting and misuse of dietary supplements. And food safety depends also on you. And also select a sustainable diet. In Lithuania we have even more of these recommendations. Eat a variety, again. Eat regularly and in moderation, means try to divide the amount of food you eat in a day in more little meals than in just 2 main meals. So it's better if we eat 4 or 5 times in a day. Then they have a recommendation about breastfeed babies and the importance of breastfeeding. Another one related to the way we cook and how have been cooked the food we eat. Try to prefer those cooked in the more sustainable way, and also pay attention to food labels and make your diet not only healthy but also sustainable. So you can see that both in Italy and Lithuania, probably because they have been revised more recently, we have a specific recommendation about sustainability of the food we eat. So following these recommendations is the good way to have and follow a healthy diet. Overall, the aim of guidelines is to educate people to a healthy nutrition and lifestyle. However, if in some cases dietary needs of specific group of people, like children, elderly people, pregnancy women, are considered and taken into account, recommendations for people with disability or acquired disability are never discussed in these guidelines. So, aim of ENNEADI project is also to fill this gap. Thank you for your attention.